So today we're gonna talk about art. Art! So we gotta gear up. I'm not so big, I'm not so tough, so don't you ever listen to me. Do not listen to me, okay? Maybe listen to someone like Ethan Becker. I don't know how to do art good, but we're doing a 5-minute speed paint tutorial anyways. And yes, you heard me. A 5-minute speed paint tutorial for fun that you may or may not learn from. And you should listen to professionals instead. But let's go. This process is going to be separated into the sketch, line art, shadows, lighting, and final touches. I usually start out with a rough idea of what I'm trying to draw. In this case, I'm trying to create a full body character in somewhat of a high angle. I'm using Clip Studio Paint, by the way. Notice that I'm using a different color G pen on the first layer, so the line art and the rough sketch are distinct from each other. I start with the head and go down from the body. Okay, anatomy speed run! We're going to look at some anatomy references from other artists. You can simplify these complicated muscle structures into simpler shapes. When drawing the full body, keep in mind that it has an S-shaped curve. From the neck, there's a trapezius that curves down to the shoulders. When starting on the body, I drew the curved collarbone as a landmark to place the pectorals. Below it would be the abdominal. I made the deltoids of the arms, biceps, then the forearm. When drawing the face, keep in mind of its planes and think more of a 3D manner while sketching. The Asaro head shows how the facial features turn. I start with the rough shape of the nose, then eyes, and then the lips, which connects from the nose. At that time, I haven't done much research on lower body anatomy. I mainly divided the legs into two parts though, the thighs and the calves. I don't know what I'm doing. The roughness of the sketch kind of shows how I'm unsure of what I'm drawing, which is the anatomy and perspective of everything. When you're unsure, it's good to use references of what you need to fix. I really should get an anatomy book. Now continuing on to the line art, I lowered the opacity of my rough sketch and drew on top of the sketch layer. With the finished line art, I added a hand, which I referenced from several photos of my own hand. Headphones, goggles, details on the shirt, and some skates. Now with the flat colors. Now it's pretty clear that I'm doing a fan art of Beat from the game Jet Set Radio. When placing them, I have my flat colors hidden so I can focus on the lighting. I added a new layer with a multiply setting and roughly added a grey midtone with a slight orange as the shadows. Keep in mind of the light source, as I plan to have mine set from the upper right corner of the canvas. When placing shadows on an object, I think about where light hits an object and where it can't. I had my shadows to be super straight to fit the cel-shaded aesthetic of the game. I created another layer on top of my shadows with the layer setting as soft light. With a white brush, I added where light would hit the character more, in this case, the upper right. This coloring part was loosely based on Mark Burnett. He's an art teacher and professional artist. I already added most of the background. Most of it was based on reference. We all have to use reference at some point. The angles of the buildings and street was based off on the angle of the character's feet, as I tried to make them match somewhat. Right now, I'm just darkening the parts of the background and creating a bit of lights and shadows. For painting, the main brushes I typically use are basically only round and flat brushes. I don't really use any fancy brushes like blurring or blending. The watercolor round brush typically does everything for you. Typically, using less brushes looks better than more. But I thought adding the logo was a nice touch. In the end, I added a Gaussian blur effect to the background, honestly to hide my ugly background, but you shouldn't do something like that. This was the first time I applied anatomy to perspective, so I wasn't that satisfied with it, but I gotta move on in order to learn more. To end it, learning how to draw is important to me since creating something from just your hand and paper or tablet is the sickest thing ever.